Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to our previous presenter. What a wonderful organisation, and I shall certainly be getting on the mark myself. It's a real pleasure to be here as the project sponsor for Engendering STEM. I'm joined on stage by my colleagues Kirsty and Jennifer, and I'm also joined by many of the Engendering STEM team who are in the audience with us today. I've spent most of my life working in male-dominated environments. I started my career as an engineer in the Royal Navy, where women were highly underrepresented. I then moved into the construction industry and spent 4 years as a stonemason without seeing a single woman in the workplace. I became an educator, training very non-diverse technical apprentices. I taught stonemasonry for 10 years and did not have a single woman student. I now act as the Associate Director for Innovation in STEM, responsible for shaping the STEM proposition at our college. And one of the biggest challenges that I have is creating an inclusive culture that's welcoming not just to women, but welcoming to all the students who come through our technical and professional programs. We've done a lot of good work improving the number of women who come into the college, but we do have a significant issue in supporting them into employment, and particularly employment in small and medium enterprise. That's not an issue that is unique to us at the college. That's an issue that's faced right across Europe. And so 18 months ago, we decided to reach out, to seek out partners who are doing good work in promoting STEM workplace inclusivity. And following funding from the European Commission, our project Engendering STEM was born. So the focus of today's presentation is firstly to introduce you to our project and to our project partners, to share the early outputs of our project, and to present a call to action to all of the delegates here today to support us, to support SMEs, and to support the development of a more inclusive STEM workplace. So as I mentioned, we have a number of partners from across Europe. We have ourselves at City of Glasgow College, a large technical college in Scotland. We have our partners in the Basque Country, Miguel Altuna, who have exceptionally strong links to STEM-focused SMEs. Our colleagues at Equate Scotland, who specialise in gender equality and women's issues, and our colleagues in the Netherlands at VHTO, who do some wonderful work supporting girls and young women into the STEM sector. So the key issues that we're trying to address, and I wanted just to take a moment to look at the graphic. This is one of the graphics, one of the many that we have distributed on social media as part of our project. And unfortunately, we regularly receive challenging and it's sometimes insulting comments about the work that we are doing and about the action that we're trying to engender. We receive comments relating to equal pay, making it clear to us that if women just tried harder or worked longer, then equal pay or unequal pay wouldn't be an issue. We've been told to keep our nonsense north of the border. And I can assure you that the word for nonsense was slightly more provocative. What's interesting is that the feedback that we receive has not just come from men. In some cases, it's come from women too. Unfortunately, it's offset by many messages of support from right across Europe. As I mentioned, we have challenges in translating the number of women coming through the education system into employment. We've already heard of the leaky pipeline, and I think there's a lot of work to be done there. We tend to focus on large companies. We tend to focus on those high-profile, high-value, well-resourced initiatives that quite often look great in a media piece, but can have limited long-term impact. We also have to recognise that these large organisations are hoovering up talent, and that the SME base, who often make up over 90% of our employed workforce, are largely ignored and don't have access to good quality support and don't know how to invest time and resource into meaningful change within their organisations. Feedback from our employers is that quality guidance is difficult to find. Those that are engaged or who want to be engaged just don't know where to go. And let's not ignore the fact that many are just plain resistant to developing their workforce inclusivity. Many employers are indifferent to the legal case. They're uninterested in the moral case, but the business case tends to prick their ears. And what I'd like to do now is just share a very short video outlining our project. So over the last year, we have been working to develop an evidence base relating to women's experiences in the STEM SME labour market. We've identified 12 cross-cutting themes that have an impact on those experiences. We have themes including recruitment, equal pay, culture, workplace environment, and so on. We've also been able to identify over 200 evidence-based barriers to women's participation in the STEM labour market. We have obvious barriers, like inflexible working practices. We've heard about them today. But we also have more subtle barriers, such as access to communications devices. We've been able to demonstrate that many employers that we've worked with actually ban access to mobile phones for those in low-skilled roles. We know that this can raise anxiety amongst those, particularly those with caring responsibilities. And we know that those with caring responsibilities are disproportionately women. So a very small example of an issue which generally is designed around a health and safety problem, but actually has a real detrimental impact on the experiences of individuals working within small companies. We've also identified over 50 evidence-based solutions towards improving workplace inclusivity. Many of them are low cost, many of them are no cost and can be started today by SMEs working in STEM. In our engagement with SMEs, we find the same recurring issues, regardless of company size, sector, country, or region. Systemic cultural issues cannot be addressed by any one actor or one group, but we are aiming to support employers to do what we can and to support them in doing what they can. I'd now like to hand over to my colleague Jennifer to showcase how we're achieving this.
Afternoon. Thanks to Douglas for the introduction. I am one of the Engendering STEM team members, also a mathematics lecturer at the City of Glasgow College. I can't decide whether I'm more pleased or disappointed to see so many of you staying to the end, because my classes are much smaller than this room usually. So yeah, I'm going to talk you through the self-assessment toolkit here. Now, this is just a sample of something that you'll see, and I'm just going to make it'll hopefully make a lot more sense to you than what is just here. So first of all, you're going to want to know, why are we throwing this at you? What's it come from? So as Douglas has already touched on, we have been looking at gathering evidence, and from that evidence moving forward to see about solutions. Now, this is a product of many discussions where we've been consulting SME employers, also larger employers, and acting on them. So taken from a reaction of, we want to progress, we want to make change, but we lack the access to resources, good resources, they may be expensive and so on. So we want to help them to create more inclusive workplace practices, to put them into place more easily, and this is our baby of that, basically. So how it works really is that after the consultation process and all this evidence gathering, we have made for you a questionnaire. You're going to take that questionnaire, hopefully, as either an employer or an employee. So we have two tracks. Now they are similar in somewhat, but also provide us with a completely different perception. So the two tracks, you've got one, go down the employer route. These questions that we're going to ask are mostly objective. So, for example, what have you got? What are you offering to your employees? It could be, as touched on, the flexible working policy. Do you have one? Do you offer it? Yes, no. Simple. However, the employees, you're going to take this other track where your questions will somewhat be the same, but you will have extra questions. So if I use that same example of flexible working, I may look at the employer who says, yes, I offer this. I'm fantastic. I'm doing everything I should be. The employee at the same place looks at our question, does your employer offer this? No. That's something we're really interested in. Or worse, yes, they do offer it. Okay, for us, that's going to lead you on to another question. How comfortable would you feel approaching your line manager? How comfortable would you feel asking to take advantage of that, to drop down your days, to make it so that your caring responsibilities are easier for you to work with that work-life balance? So these type of answers, obviously less objective, you're going to be talking about how comfortable. So when you're carrying out the questionnaire, it's more than yes, no. We might have somewhat comfortable, very comfortable, no, I would never approach that. So these are the sorts of questions we're asking, and we need very honest answers. Now, obviously, if I come into a workplace and I say, can you ask some of your employees to take part in this? I think as a boss, which I am not, but if I was, I would go handpick the ones that I know I'm best friends with. They love me. They'll say all the right things. So that's what's really great about our questionnaire, and it is anonymous. You're going to answer it. The boss will not know it's you that's answered it. You're going to tell us everything there is that you believe. Honest answers. From all of these answers, we're hoping to map you something like this. So we're looking at the gaps that are mapped in order to benchmark where are you at as a business and help you to get to where you need to be and where you want to be. So when you look at this here, what we're showing you is the perceived reactions to what is or is not perhaps in place at your workplace. So you're going to get a graphic that looks a bit like this. Now, I know it may be smaller for those at the back, but what it touches on are the 12 themes that we found from this evidence base that are mostly associated with whether you're working well or not well in gender equality in your workplace. So you can maybe see there we've got partnership working, equal pay, and your policy and systems, etc. Okay? Also commented on would be recruitment there, which we've heard a lot about today, and the biased language, etc., that's maybe used in your adverts, etc. So those are what are shown around the outside. Now, when we look at this, it again is just personal to you, and it will be scored. So the highest performing and worst performing areas at the bottom, they would be your focus. Obviously your highest performing, well done, continue to do that. Your worst performing, that's where you're going to want to look for those solutions. You want to improve that, but ideally a low cost or no cost. So what we're going to do is show you this results page, explain it all to you, really simple ways we can offer improvements. So to you, what we're going to do is provide some low-cost recommendations. Hopefully you can implement them immediately. Obviously there will also be some longer-term solutions as well, but what's great about this is it's a long process. You may have seen in the small video, we're offering you 12 months of support in this. So it's not about, here's what you're doing pretty poorly, this is what you need to do to fix it, go off and do it, and be uncertain about it and quiet and not know whether you're doing it right or not. We're here, the Gender and STEM team, and our expert panel members that we have behind the scenes to support you at every step of the way for the next 12 months. So as soon as you partake in our self-assessment tool, you're going to be contacted by a member of the team, and we'll work with you step by step to make sure that you're implementing these stages throughout your business in order to help, obviously, your own business growth, but your team to feel they do work in a better, more inclusive environment. So when can you take part in this, you're wondering? Because you're all super keen, I'm sure, to take part. Next week, this is going to go live for you, so you'll be able to access the real self-assessment toolkit from next week online. All of our details are on our website, which is engenderingstem.eu. So from next week, you'll be able to get in there, take advantage of all of the free support. The sooner you do that, the longer you get the free support, and we really hope that you will engage with us in our project. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name's Kirsty Farmer, and I'm also part of the Engendering STEM team, and I work for an organisation called Equate Scotland, and we work to support women's participation in STEM in Scotland. But what I'm going to talk about now is another of our project outputs, which we launched yesterday at our first Engendering STEM conference in Amsterdam. And this is our best practice guide for small and medium enterprises. So over the last 12 months, the project team has been engaging with SMEs to find out the sort of things that they've been doing to improve equality and diversity in their organisations. And one of the reasons that we've done this is because we know quite a lot about what some of the big companies have been doing to improve gender balance, but there isn't really much of an evidence base about what small and medium companies have been doing. So what we've been doing is identifying case studies that can be easily replicated. We wanted to have something to showcase to employers who were thinking about taking action, to show them that there are steps that can be taken that are low cost or no cost, that result in tangible change, in improved workplace inclusion, and also in business performance. So what we've done is map the case studies against the 12 themes, which you saw both in Douglas's slides and on the self-assessment toolkit slide there. And alongside the case studies, we've provided expert contribution to give a bit of context to the themes. And we've also recommended practical steps that employers can take to improve gender balance in their organisations. And what we hope is that the guide will support employers to take a critical perspective on their own workplace culture and their own workplace practices. So I'm just going to give you an example of a couple of the case studies that we've gathered as part of the process. So this is an example from the Construction Scotland Innovation Centre, and they've taken a leadership role in an industry that only has 1.5 of their apprentices who are women. So there's real challenges in the construction sector, which I'm sure doesn't come as a surprise to you. But what they've achieved is 50-50 representation on their senior management teams and a 60-40 balance on their governance structures. So what they're really doing is leading from the front in an industry that's notoriously difficult to attract and retain women to. Another example of the case study within our guide is Smart STEMs. And Smart STEMs grew out of a small cybersecurity firm, and it's grown into a fully fledged charity that connects employers and educators, supporting them to engage girls within STEM. And the focus of Smart STEMs is sustained engagement. It's not about one-off interventions or one-off events. It's about a sustained engagement to encourage participation of girls in STEM subjects. So that's just a couple of the examples of the case studies we've got. Within the guide, we've got around 50 additional case studies across the themes, which really bring the themes to life and show what can be achieved. The guide, we have a small number of guides with us, so if you're interested in taking one home with you, come and speak to one of the team. And I think as of next week, there'll be an electronic version available on our website, engenderingstem.eu. And now I'm going to hand back over to Douglas, who I think is going to take any questions that you might have.
You ready for questions straight away, Douglas?
Just one moment.
Okay, great.
One moment.
Just checking.
Yeah, very, very quickly. Thank you, Kirsty and Jennifer. So, in conclusion, we've taken a very brief opportunity to share some of the work that our Engendering STEM team have been doing over the last 12 months, and the launch of our toolkit and best practice guides, we very much hope acts as a catalyst for our support of SMEs in the STEM labour market in the 12 months to come. Our aim is to empower, to support and to enable these employers to make positive changes, not just for the women in their businesses, but for everyone operating within those businesses. I did want to finish on 3 asks of the audience here today. The first one is that you connect with us, connect with the project, whether it be in person at this conference or online through the website and various social media channels that we have. Share our work with employers, with educators, with policymakers, with anyone that you think has an interest in engaging this SME base in the gender equality discussion. And consider how you, in whatever role that you play, can support the SME base in making positive changes towards creating more inclusive workplaces. It's been a real pleasure and an honour to address you here today and to share the work of our project. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. We have about 5 minutes if there are any questions for the guys. You're all set for the next panel, I think for Douglas, Kirsty or Jennifer. Well, we'll definitely check out the site from next week. It's always great to see you with those Erasmus Plus funds end up. So that sounds amazing. Thank you so much. Well, yeah, please. Do we have a microphone? Here, just with a mustard jacket here at the front. In the 3rd row, not the 4th row. Yeah, great.
Hi. Anne from University of Luxembourg again. I just had a stupid question maybe, but this free advice you propose to give as a sort of an audit, is it free of charge because of it's funded by, okay. So we just have to call in and book it, just simple as that. Oh, cool, thanks.
Yeah,
Visit our website.
It really is as simple as that. Visit our website, get in touch, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you.
You grab Douglas now and say, listen, the University of Luxembourg needs... Anyone else has any pressing questions? Okay, well, thanks so much, guys. Thank you. Lovely to hear such a great resource.